You ever watch one of those YouTube channels that try to teach you on how to pay off your debt? I mean, these guys don't have debt whatsoever. Well, I actually did pay off $135,000 in less than a year by following simple and repeatable steps. That is the equivalent of £100,000 in today's money. To make it easy for the wider audience, I've decided to use the US dollars rather than the British pounds, as the US dollars is the world reserve currency. Don't worry, if you're from the UK, I still do reference the pound equivalent and put it on the screen. When I decided to start this YouTube channel, I knew I needed to be vulnerable by sharing aspects of my life that I'm not very comfortable with doing. But most importantly, I needed to start at the foundation of my wealth building experiences. Not at the top, but where it actually began, and that is getting rid of debt. You see, I've been living with debt for so long as I could remember. To me, it was a way of life. My debt to income ratio was over 60%, which means I was literally spending 60% of my monthly income on servicing debt. However, last year, I flipped the script, paid off my debt, and continued using this same process I'm going to share with you today to build a six-figure investable asset portfolio. Hopefully, you can do the same if you find yourself in my shoes. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Chika. Welcome to our channel where we discuss all things personal finance using real-life case studies, not statistical fluff or economical BS. Before diving into how I managed to pay off $135,000 in less than a year, I feel it's important to share how I got there in the first place so you understand the debt traps I personally fell into, and perhaps this might help someone to avoid them. And this is what I call the debt spiral. It all began after I graduated from the university. I was lucky enough to bag a graduate training job at a Big Four management consulting firm with a whopping salary of $38,000. That's about £30,000. Something unique happened though. They offered all the graduate trainee an interest-free loan of $10,000 to be deducted from our salary over the course of 4 years. It felt like magic. I mean, how could I say no? So I took the money and spent it all traveling around Europe. Fast forward 18 months later, I decided to leave the firm for a competitor. I needed to pay back the remainder of the loan, which of course, I didn't have, as I spent all my money traveling around Europe. So I took out my very first loan with a bank, HSBC. It was the smoothest process in the world. I went online, applied with only a few clicks, got approved instantly, and the money was in my account in seconds. I couldn't believe it. A loan of $10,000 to be repaid over 5 years. To me, that was an insane bargain. Fast forward 1 year later, without any financial or investment knowledge whatsoever, I joined the crypto craze of 2017-2018. As a matter of fact, I doubled my investment in about a couple of months. A couple of hundreds was what I put in, so I felt like I was a genius. So I thought, you know how easy it is to make money and how easy it is to get a loan. So I went back to HSBC and took out even more loan. This time for $37,250. Yikes. Well, I wrote the balance of the previous loan into the new one, and then I invested $25,000 into crypto market and various ICOs. Well, you all know how that went. I lost everything within 1 month as the crypto market crashed terribly. Then I was stuck with $37,250 loan payment hanging over my head. You would have thought I learned my lesson by now. Well, I didn't, because by mid-2018, I decided I want to embark on an MBA program at a prestigious university in the UK. Now I needed to cough out $60,000 to pay for the MBA. I'm sure you already know where all that money is coming from. Well, I'll do you one even better. The university offered that I could pay by installments. And I thought, wonderful. They must really want me. Nope, they wanted the money. You see, installment payment like this are designed to lure you in. Buy now and pay later. That's a trap, guys. Don't do it. The university was basically offering me a $60,000 interest-free loan to be paid back within 2 years of study. Well, just 2 months after I took out the loan for crypto investing, more like gambling, I took out another loan, this time from Sainsbury Bank, for $25,000 to pay for the first installment of the MBA. Fast forward to December that same year, 2018, I took out another loan of about $23,000 from Satena to pay for the other installments. By this time, I was very comfortable with carrying debt. It was a way of life. I didn't think anything was wrong with it. As a matter of fact, I started making six figures salary from the start of 2019 and still did not pay off any of my debt. Instead, I took on even more debt. From 2020, I began shuffling and consolidating debt. It was a debt spiral. I just didn't care anymore. I was making enough money to pay off all the monthly payments and then some. About 60% of my monthly income were going into paying off debt, and the remaining 40%, well, you get it, I was maintaining my lifestyle. I was buying designer clothes, fine dining, traveling, latest tech, you get the gist. However, by mid-2021, my debt was out of control. I didn't know who or what I owed, so I decided to consolidate even further. So I went to my good old pal, HSBC. They gave me another loan of about $45,000. Using this loan and the savings I had at the time, I paid off all the smaller little loans, and now I had this one gigantic loan with a payment of about $750 a month to be paid for the next 5 years. I was proud of myself. I actually gave myself a pat at the back. Genius. Well, I know what you're thinking. Did I just mention savings while having that much debt? You see, I've been conditioned to think that having debt is a way of life. So even when I had some money left over after my extravagant spending, I save rather than paying off debt. And this is the mistake I see most people making all the time. We mentally put money in separate buckets rather than treat it as a single unit. For example, my savings was about $30,000 and was earning me a whopping 0.05% annually at the time, while the average APR across my $75,000 loan at the time was 5.9%. So, not only was I losing money to inflation by leaving the money just sitting in the bank, I was also losing money paying lots of interest I didn't need to pay. With having just one payment, I figured I was in control of my finances. So after a huge salary bump at work, I decided to ditch my BMW 5 Series for a Range Rover Vela. Talk about lifestyle creep, huh? I went to the Range Rover dealer. Let's call him Andy. Andy was way too happy to extend me a line of credit from Lloyd's Bank. He offered me a deal of leasing the Range Rover for only $1,000 a month with just 10% deposit of about $6,000 over a 4.5 year period. The way he presented the offer to me made me feel so important and special while drinking a glass of champagne that was offered to me. How could I refuse such a generous offer? So I signed the document. I drove off in my new Range Rover with massage seat. However, a few days later, after the euphoria vanished, I read my contract and discovered that after paying $1,000 monthly for the next 4 years, I still need to pay another $30,000 before I could own the car. So I was now in a hole of an extra $75,500 with Lloyd's Bank. As you can imagine, I was flat as broke that month after purchasing the Range Rover and waiting for my next paycheck. So I decided to take out another loan. Why not? They were willing to lend me $12,500 with a staggering 16% APR over 4 years. Well, I took the money, but for me, that was the last straw. As one of my New Year resolutions in 2022, I was going to read or listen to about 20 books on Audible. There was no genre allocated, it was just 20 books based on recommendations from YouTube and from friends. By August of 2022, I had gone through over 32 books, and most of them were mostly on personal finance and effective habits. Books like The Psychology of Money, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Atomic Habits, The Compound Effect, The Simple Path to Wealth, The Millionaire Next Door, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and many more. I also watched a ton of YouTube videos on personal finance and debt management. Suddenly, I realized that I've let myself be brainwashed into thinking that debt was a way of life. As a matter of fact, I realized there were millions of people out there who are 100% debt-free and living great lives and making millions from doing everyday simple things. It was time to get to work. Step 1. I listed out all my outstanding debt with a plan of how to pay them off. It didn't matter if I was going to use the snowball or the avalanche method. And the reason is that my lowest loan happens to have the highest APR. Just for context, the snowball method is where you pay the loan with the lowest value amount just to build that momentum and make you feel good that you started paying off a loan. While the avalanche method is where you pay off the loan with the highest APR. This makes more financial sense because you are getting the most bang for your buck. Step 2. Now, here's the important bit that most YouTubers won't tell you. I was already making a 6-figure salary, which was a good starting point. I didn't pay off $135,000 in debt in less than a year while making the average household salary. That just wouldn't do it. So don't beat yourself up if it's taking you a bit longer to pay off your debt. What matters is that you're taking action right here, right now. So with that in mind, the next logical step was to cut off all unnecessary expenses. Things like excessive vacation, buying designer clothing, buying the latest tech, and a lot of Amazon shopping I did. Step 3, getting a second job. Needing to pay off this debt as soon as possible, I knew that depending solely on my salary wasn't an option. Hence, I took on a part-time job working a different time zone. I started making an extra 50% of my monthly salary. I work from 8 to 5 on my main job, take a 2-hour break, and then work from 7 to 11 for the other company. So to pull this off, I had to sacrifice my social life. Amen. No more dance classes, no more Friday night drinks with the boys, no more road trip with the Jonases. I mean, it all came to a halt, and that was the price I had to pay for all my years of financial illiteracy. Step 4, start a side hustle. See, despite having a second job, on weekends, I pick up knowledge-based tags on TaxRabbit to make extra cash. This is often just a couple of low hundreds, but it all adds up. In May, after understanding and calculating how the car payment is eroding my future wealth, I decided it was time to sell the Range Rover. If you would like a more in-depth video of why I sold my childhood dream car, do let me know in the comment section. Well, I sold the car and took a hit of about $7,600 due to the negative equity, as the car's value has depreciated much more than the loan value. By the end of May 2023, apart from my mortgage, I was financially debt-free after 8 years of recycling debt. And to ensure I don't go back to debt, I placed myself on a budget. You see, I learned a lot about different perspectives of budgeting and what works for me. And no, I don't track my coffees or pennies that I spend. Instead, I follow Ramit Sethi's approach to budgeting. I allocate money for the big stuff like investment, long-term saving, short-term saving, and then guilt-free spending. And then I transfer this money to separate accounts. I mean, you really should read that book, How We Teach You to Be Rich. It's quite insightful. Given that I no longer have any bad debt and my expenses are quite low, I now invest over 50% of my income and allocate 20% to guilt-free spending, which leaves me with 30% that I spend on long-term and short-term savings. I currently have over 6 figures in liquid investment as I kept the part-time job that pays me an extra 50% of my current income, and I invest every money I make from that job. And no, I do not plan to keep the job forever, as that lifestyle is unsustainable, but I intend to use it as a jump start into my quest for financial freedom. Lessons learned. Firstly, just because a loan is offered to you doesn't mean you have to take it. You see, banks and auto dealer will continually offer you more money than you can personally afford. Say no. Secondly, do not be jealous of that guy driving a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or Range Rover. He is probably in debt to his iceball. As a matter of fact, by not owing anybody any money, you are much richer than this person. Thirdly, debt is an anchor to building wealth. Contrary to what we are told, it is not a way of life. There are millions of people living debt-free, and you could be one of them. But to be truly debt-free, you first need to understand how much you owe, what the APR are for each debt, and how much is your monthly payment for each. Then, you need to create a budget. Cut off all unnecessary expenses like vacations, like eating out, like shopping. You'll be surprised how much you can afford to put into paying off your debt by just doing this simple thing. Then, decide on which approach you would like to use, depending on your personality. Snowball or avalanche, it doesn't really matter. Get started. So start by paying off the minimum payment for across all debt, and then make overpayment on your lowest debt or the one with the highest APR, depending on what approach you're using. Now, here's the kicker. You are not going to pay off your debt quickly if you rely only on one source of income, especially if your debt runs into 6 digits. It's time to get a second job. Not a side hustle, but an actual second job. You see, a side hustle doesn't disrupt your life. It's convenient. In turn, you make a couple tens or hundreds of dollars. However, if you keep at it, it might eventually become a second job or your main job. The problem is though, this is a maybe scenario, not a guarantee. You don't need a maybe when paying off debt. You need guarantees. What you need is a second job that brings in constant and predictable income. A second job requires commitment and skipping on some aspect of your social life. In turn, you are rewarded with a substantial income that can go into paying off that debt a little faster. And after paying your debt, do everything you can to remain debt-free. Educate yourself, read books, stick to a budget, keep your expenses down, only spend what you can afford without taking on debt. I hope this video at least helped one person. I made this to help people realize that they are not alone in the debt spiral. But the good news is there's a way out. I want to make my videos as practical as possible, drawing from case study and experiences of people rather than just quoting academic papers and financial statistics. If you enjoyed this video, I appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It's a new channel, so it goes a really long way to help me grow. And do let me know in the comment section what kind of videos you'd like me to make. Thanks guys, see you in the next one.